Hey, Polka Dot sisters and our friends across the globe. It is Shannon Crotty, founder and CEO of Polka Dot Powerhouse, here today with another fabulous managing director interview. Today, I have the one and only, so cool and so loved in our community, managing director Rebecca Plautz. Becky Plautz, like which one? Becky, Rebecca. She'll go by many names. How are you doing today, Becky?
Both are great. I'm doing great, Shannon. I'm happy to be here and get to have this time with you.
Yeah, so I have so many questions for you. And when I was prepping, I'm like, okay, where do I start with Becky? Where do I start? Okay, first off, I don't even think I know as much about you as I should. I know a little bit. Tell people who may not be familiar with you more about you, what you love, who you are, just like a Cliff Notes. Who's Becky?
Well, I'm all about empowerment and female empowerment specifically. And my background is photography, but and that's my passion. I love being able to capture moments, and everything that I do is about empowerment, connection, and really being a champion for women to be seen and heard and really know that they're making an impact in their world, whether they're leading their household or leading a company, that it all matters, and the way that we show up confidently, hopefully, is important. So I'm all things empowerment in that way.
Okay, love that. I think I've always known that about you. I've always known that you've had this passion for. You know what it is, or what I see a lot in you is what you just described is accomplished because you make people feel so comfortable.
Mm, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're a very like at first I was going to say calming, but I'm like that's not the image I think of when I think of Becky, but it's there. Like there's so many layers. There's layers of calm, there's layers of fun, there's layers of very unique individuality. Is that a word? Individuality? But there's so
Yeah.
many different layers. Yeah, that's why this is why I think I have so many questions. Okay. So let's get to your polka dot story. So tell me your
Okay.
polka dot story.
I Polka Dot found me. I had been showcasing my empowerment boudoir photography. I was at a ladies' night out event in Wausau and Wisconsin, and I was a vendor at this event. And a couple booths down was the then managing director, Jennifer Drager. And she had her marketing person going around talking to the vendors, and they heard me talking about women's empowerment through my photography business, and handed me a postcard and said, "You need to come and check out Polka Dot. You're all about the female empowerment." And I said, "I don't wear polka dots and I don't wear pink and orange." So I was like, I'm not really sure. And at this point in my business journey, like I had never been to networking events or anything like that. So I was very open to sharing my business in a very like person to person kind of way at going to events and things like that, so people could just hear my heart. And she was just like, just come and like check it out. And actually, you were at that first meeting that I attended. It was in December. So I've been in Polka Dot. I just had my eighth renewal. And so you were at the very first one that I was at, and I joined because of the energy in the room and the positivity, and no one handed me a business card or anything, which is what just the mindset that I had around business networking and getting out there and sharing, which is probably why I stayed away from them for so long. And then I just loved the positive energy. I have sisters, so I never had brothers. I know what it can be like to be around sisters, but I also, I was in a spot where I was looking for adult women to forge relationships and bonds with, because I was a young mother. I had just started my photography business, and I was just really like boots on the ground looking for support. So, yeah, that's how I found Polka Dot and jumped in.
Yeah, I love that. I do remember that meeting primarily because of winter. So if I was at the meeting,
December, yeah.
it was a white knuckle kind of situation, but I do remember that meeting because I remember seeing you. I remember seeing Jennifer. There were other OGs in the room, and there were brand new people as well. It was a really good mix that day. I do remember that. And you're right, though. I wonder, you talk about being kind of this fresh, starting this new journey as a photographer, as a mom, in this position as a mom too, if even like you didn't even realize the support that you needed.
Yeah, I would say I had found like a mom's group for like the mom things, but like I hadn't found um a safe place that I felt, I could show up with my boudoir photography or be really open about the vulnerabilities about being a business owner and those things. So Polka Dot was, yeah, it was really at a perfect timing where I was like open to just communicating with women on another level and hearing their stories. And really, I've always loved being around older generations and women that are more experienced than I am because I'm very willing to listen to what they have to say. I do make my own mistakes, even though I listen to it, but it's always been something that I've appreciated is being in a room with people that are way smarter or way more experienced than me, and I soak that up. So I think Polka Dot was the perfect timing of an opportunity to get to do that in a safe room, in a supportive space.
Right. I think, because Polka Dot started out very business handed and there's still a business component there, but many members don't have a business and that evolved into the more of the sisterhood. But even when you're talking about like that support system, moms groups are great, networking is great. But I was talking on a previous interview that networking, I believe, is for a specific intent and for usually a certain period of time, like a certain goal kind of thing.
Hmm.
Or I think of Polka Dot being like for your life, like what period are you going through now and how can you utilize it? But what I think we forget, and whether you have a business or a certain goal, there's only certain people you can talk to about that and not have it like tarnish the shine of that dream, that goal, meaning family's great, but they might be like, oh, if you're feeling this down or frustrated, maybe you should get out of it. Or, someone who doesn't understand where to be around women who are very goal oriented, who are very dream driven. I think that there's a freeing feeling to be with them because they understand that just because something is frustrating or hard or challenging or grows us as people doesn't mean, oh, bail on that, right? It means maybe it means that, but maybe it means that we're being pushed as individuals. Do you agree with that?
Oh, so much because I've found great accountability for those uh dreams that we're talking about driving for, in my polka dot sisters, in the support that I've created, right? That I've put myself out there. I have been vulnerable to share things, and then I find that support when I show up authentically and share those things, whether it is about business or it is about motherhood or it is just about being a woman, that, there is a dot that can relate, or there is someone that can connect me to someone else that can um, really have a safe space for me to be able to share or just feel heard. And I think that you're right. It is about transition, any transition that we have through life that I've seen examples over and over and heard success stories over and over in not just my chapter, but globally that, that's the case with Polka Dot. And that's why it's so powerful and that it is a sisterhood more than a business. And I finally am in the business side of things because I loved that support so much. So I am a diamond for my third year as well.
Awesome. And that for those who aren't familiar, Polka Dot tends to be, well, we just recently clarified that language on our website. Polka Dot is about relationship building and those connections. And Diamond membership, although that is part of the intent, is also very professional, goal focused, that sort of thing too, as well. I love that. And Diamond can intimidate some people, but it's like, what? Well, I think what it is that there's so many resources there that you're like, oof, I don't have time to do all of this. Well, no one does. But like when it is the timing and you need that resource, it's there. When, I know Elaine Torso, Diamond's managing director, often talks about it being like a buffet. You take and utilize what you want And when you don't, you don't. Like there's not a one size fits all in polka dot, but especially in diamond.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing I was going to share about what you were talking about with kind of those push agents and being able to push through those challenging moments is I know that you and I have something in common with a hard challenge that we've completed. And I don't know if you've heard of the 12-hour walk, but I just completed that on Sunday, like just a couple days ago, and that was super hard. So, just talking, thinking about the people in our lives that we confide those things in, that we share. Like, I have this maybe crazy idea or this, extravagant goal, and then them being the people that are like, wow, if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be you because I'm not doing it, but I'm going to cheer you on in doing that.
Right.
I've definitely found that from my chapter members that I confided in that I was doing this audacious thing. And it was very challenging. And even after I had completed it, my friend was like, she's like, "Are we going hiking tonight?" The next day, and I was like, "Girl, I am taking the day off completely. Like, I can't walk after this." So she was like, "But you did it," and I was like, she said, "Was it everything that you hoped it would be?" And I said, "No, it was freaking hard. It was very hard." And she's like, "But you did it," and she was still like just cheering me on, and that's exactly what our dot sisters, in my experience, have been, the most powerful piece in my life has just been that encouragement to remind me that, even when the things are hard, that we can do hard things.
Absolutely. That is so incredible that you did that. That sounds amazing. I doesn't sound like it's something I want to do today or even this month or anything like that, but it sounds like did it just like you saw it and you're like, I'm doing that. And then you kind of
No,
went, wait, did I say that out loud?
it was a seed planted 2 years ago. Um, and it was like, I know I'm gonna need that walk someday. And it's an actual thing, the 12hourwalk.com. You can check it out on there. But it's really about it's about growth, it's about solitude. So you're unplugged for 12 hours, walking it out, letting things come to the surface that you really need time to work through.
Right.
And I didn't get my epiphany that I thought I was going to, so that was like frustrating. But um, it was all about just how I want to feel good in my body and physically support myself so that everything else can, be happy and joyful. And if we don't have our health, then what do we have? So
Absolutely. That's
yeah, it was
incredible.
not something I just knew I wanted to do, Shannon. It was 2 years in the making of like, where would
No,
I
you
walk
don't.
for
Yes, you
12 hours? How would I do that? Like, can I go without listening to a podcast or an inspirational thing or having a walking buddy? Because I do those things regularly and I love that. And I've been practicing unplugging because I think it's so filling to me to step away.
right.
And it was finally the time. I was like, I need to do it before it gets winter. Now is the time. And I picked the date and I was just like, I'm going.
Yeah. I love that. I'm so proud of you. And I know you're proud of you, which is the most important thing. And like I always say, if you have something that is a dream or a crazy idea that won't like stop nudging you, like you at least need to investigate it. So it does sound like for 2 years that was like, hey, Becky. And you're like, no, I don't wanna. Doesn't sound fun. I don't know how I do that. And hey, Becky.
Yeah. And
Oh,
actually the missing piece was another polka dot sister in my chapter. She came on one of the regular hikes that we do and I had to spit it out on this hike. Have you guys ever heard of this? And they're like, "No, that's wild." And yet then it was like, well, they kind of asked questions and I said, "Well, one of the things that holds me back is where would I walk safely for 12 hours that's not in my regular neighborhood, that I'm not getting distracted by things regularly, that kind of thing, but also I need access to a restroom." So I had some requirements that I was looking for. And this dot specifically, this is the first time she did the hike with us. And she was like, "Have you heard of this specific trail in my area?" And I was like, "No." And that's where I ended up going.
nice.
So
So
all in
it
perfect
wasn't
timing.
like a race where you guys, all people across the country met at this place.
No.
It's like, not only are you going to do this hard thing that's going to challenge and grow you by yourself, but you also got to find the resources for it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there was no competition. I was my own driving force. And I tell you, 3 hours in, I was in pain. 6 hours in, I thought I was in hell. Um, the last 10 minutes, Shannon, I walked past a woman. I was like, I'm doing this. I was basically dragging myself for the last, bit of it. But a woman stopped me and she was so sweet. And she was like, hey, pigtails, because I had pigtails in.
Yeah.
And she was like, are you okay? Your walk is kind of sad.
You're like, oh, it's amazing for 12 hours.
I know. I was like, I appreciate you checking in on me so much, this stranger. She introduced herself and she was very kind, but it was very much like, are you okay? Like, I recognize your pain. And I was like, I am in pain. I've been walking for 12 hours. I appreciate it. This is self-induced, honestly, right now.
Don't
So,
call any authorities. I'm
yeah.
okay. I'll be better in 10 minutes when I'm done with this 12-hour walk.
Yeah. And she's even like, do you have a safe place to go after this? Like, that's a lot. I was like, you are so nice. Thank you. So,
Yeah, it goes
I
like,
mean, we always need those people in our life. And again, I think that's a huge piece of why I love polka dot so much and what it's been for me is just really those women in my life that continue to tap me on the shoulder. Even when I ignore the other taps on the shoulder, they're
right.
still there to also amplify that and remind me of those challenges that grow me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm super excited and proud for you. Thank you, dear, for sharing that. All
Yeah.
right, so let's talk about this. So you've been a member since 16. You just came up on your 8 year, but in 22, you became a leader with Polka Dot, a managing director. So tell me about what made you decide to make that change.
So I had been on the leadership support team for like 5.5 years at that point. So I had already known that I loved polka dot, that I wanted to support the chapter and in staying local here in central Wisconsin. And I saw an opportunity and it came at the right time that it was like, you have an opportunity to really step up and actually grow as a leader. And I had already grown so much just from being not just, but from being on the leadership team. A lot of people don't recognize me now to say like my fear was public speaking and that when I agreed to be the speaker coordinator way back when, I actually was in terror, like to go up and even just read people's bios. And, it was my dot sisters that for like, I think it was 2 months and maybe even three, but I'll say two, that, they took the reins and introduced the speakers because I just sat in fear. And then finally I was like, do not let me do that again. Like, I see that you're there to support me, but the most support you can give to me right now is just allow me to be in my fear. And it's going to be okay. I know it will be because it was a safe place.
Right.
And so that was growth in alone in a leadership support role. And I saw the opportunity to say, okay, I'm I've already been doing this much. I already know how I can be supporting the chapter and I wanted to continue that. And there was an opportunity to do it. So I raised my hand and said, if I can get through, like I would be willing to make sure that we stay growing in the central Wisconsin area." And yeah, I made it through.
You did, and I think I've mentioned this on previous videos, but maybe I haven't. That, we only approved maybe, I don't know, 30% of the people who come through because, well, number one, like for me, it's my sister's legacy. So I really wanted, there are still times that like we all interview, the process takes 6 to 8 weeks. I don't know in 22 if it took that long, but that's what it takes now. There's a lot of steps, there's a lot of personality steps. It's my sister's legacy, so I'm very protective of that. But also, like for me, I want good people, but I also want to put people in position where they can succeed, where they can feel joy, where they can feel like this is benefiting them. And there are some people like strength finders that test. Like there's some people that like I can think of a handful of people, they are perfect in the strengths that they have, but the strengths that they have are not the strengths that are needed for this particular role and they would be absolutely miserable. So we're really, really intentional and do the best job we can, not only to put great leaders into position and to protect members by picking great leaders who are interested in staying a certain amount of time, but also in seeing those leaders and making sure that we're honoring them by not putting them in a position that they're going to just crash and burn if we can help it. Um, yes, you made it, right? You made it and you're doing a fabulous job. What do you think is the biggest thing that you've learned about yourself from being a leader on a higher level?
Mm. I would say that the biggest thing is practicing asking for help, like literally delegating and communicating the actual things that could support me in taking that for someone else when, people are very willing to help. And I think sometimes I would think that they're mind readers and like, can't they just see this and know this? And no, they can't. They don't. And so when I ask, I'm like, oh, wow, this is really supportive for me. And it gives them an opportunity to grow as well and realize how much their support is not only needed, but wanted.
Right.
So that's been the huge thing, just in these 2 years, short years, that I can say that I've asked for more help and gave the opportunity to people to help me because I'm a very independent woman
Yeah.
and to my detriment a lot of the time. So this has been a really powerful growth point for me that I'm continuing to grow in.
Yeah, absolutely. I have two thoughts about that. Number one, you try to give people information in a way they can digest it. So the best way that I can describe it is not only do you not want to burn yourself out and you want to get help, right? But number two, it does not send the message of sisterhood for someone to try to do everything by themselves. And people are always like, people are so smart. They don't even know sometimes why they feel a certain way, but they know they can tell if you're saying a sisterhood, but this lady's over here doing it by herself. I'm getting mixed messages here, right? So we don't want the
Yeah.
leaders to burn themselves out, but we also do want to send the message of sisterhood. And we want members to see themselves reflected in whatever way, a strength, a common trait, whatever, within our leadership. So it's important that like chapters get that. The other thing is, and I've heard this, you didn't mention it, but I've heard mentioned a lot, is when I've been doing member connects and maybe someone just recently took a leadership role or something like that, a chapter support leadership role, is their leader approached them and they're like, I had no idea or even thought that they'd even never want me to
Mm.
help. Like they didn't even see that possibility until the leader said it. So if the leader's waiting on them to say it, that's never going to happen. It's like it's almost this little dance of watching and seeing potential and seeing futuristic kind of things like, okay, this person could possibly be a leader. And that fine dance of allowing them to come into that space. And sometimes that requires us to step out on the ledge and ask people, even if they haven't expressed that interest, they can always say no. And I hope people will say no when they're asked about something that doesn't resonate with them. But a lot of people, no one's ever approached them from a leadership perspective, and they haven't ever allowed themselves to visualize themselves in that until someone mentions it.
Yeah, I think that's 100% true. And I think I wouldn't be here if that wasn't the case for me. Even the initial tap to be a support when I was fresh in Polka, I think I was 6 months in when I got invited to be on the leadership support team. And I was like, I'm so fresh. Like, you really want me? Like, and I was a baby. Like, I was in comparison to everyone in my chapter at that point, I was definitely the youngest person in the room. And I was like, what can I teach you, ladies? This is so funny. So it was encouraging to know that like they saw something in me and they wanted me. And like I said, it isn't just about need, but it is about wanting to have a variation of people, surrounding you because we don't want to all be the same and have the same strengths. We want to be able to connect and support, and come together, which is like you're talking about sisterhood, it's all playing a part.
Absolutely. And it allows each of us to go into our, when I'm not trying to be all the things and I'm just trying to be what I enjoy and what I'm good at, and what that allows me to be in the zone of genius. And that means I have to rely on other people, which is how it's supposed to be. We're not here to do it by ourselves, or we would be here by ourselves. We're not. We're surrounded by billions of people. So it's like you don't have to be all the things. You don't have to be great at all the things. You just have to know what your thing is and allow other people to into the space to help you with the things that are not your thing. So I think that's great too. And what's really interesting is something you said about, okay, I'm the youngest person here. There's a lot of other more experienced women here. But what I've discovered, and it's so great, I feel like my sister has taught me this lesson through Polka Dot, is we have so much to learn from each other for different ages, races, belief systems, backgrounds. Like there's a never-ending process of learning from every person around us if we just, kind of, I think that depending on where you live and what you grew up in, you come to believe, oh, as the youngest, I've got the least amount of wisdom, but that's not necessarily true. And sometimes that fresh perspective is what people need. So it's like when I say spin it, I just mean the way that you present it so people can digest it. Every single person in every single room to me has equal value because they're coming at it from a different viewpoint and a different experience base.
Yeah, I agree with that. And like I said earlier, I loved to surround myself with wisdom, like older generations. But it's right. Like, right, I came in with the mindset of I'm the youngest here. What can I do to support this? And then it's, the reverse of it is I see that when I am the youngest, I bring myself in there like ready to absorb. And that has definitely been you pinpointed a learning experience too through the whole process over the last 8 years of my growth journey has been knowing that, right? That every person, doesn't matter what age they are, because they could have lived a lot more life than the person they're sitting next to that hasn't, maybe got out and lived life, to the fullest in a while or ever. And there is this, duality of being able to say like, hey, we need each other in taking advantage of learning from the experience that we each bring to the table, not the years, but the things that we do and experience.
Absolutely. And I think there's so much value in reminding people of their worth on that level that every person is of equal value, whether they're the leader of the chapter, whether they're the newest member of the chapter, the oldest member of the chapter, or the longest running member of the chapter, what have
Yeah.
you, that we're standing side by side, not in front of or behind, but standing side by side. And that's one of the reasons that are as the company, we're really trying to remind members that they are co-architects here, right? Like I'm coming from it from my vantage point that this is my sister's legacy and all of that, but it's no fun to be in a sisterhood. I mean, I know some amazing people, but if it was a sisterhood of all people Shannon Crotty knew or Becky Plautz knew, it's going to over time get boring. It grows and it becomes more rich and beneficial to everybody. The more people we individually bring in that aren't known by the whole community, it's amazing, to see that and to know that capability to change lives by simply connecting people. To me, it just absolutely blows me away.
Yeah, I agree. Uncovering those hidden gems.
Yep, absolutely. Changing the world by connecting the dots, right? You look back and you can see how the dots connect. You look forward and you see new dots to connect. I love it. So tell me, do you think, I think I know your answer just based on what you said. Like I think I know, right? I don't know till I ask. Do you think leadership is something people are born with, or do you think leadership is something that any individual can be taught or can learn?
I think it's definitely taught and examples and encouraged. Um, there's, yeah, I think it's all part of that belief built up that we know we can make a difference. And that starts by, saying yes to one thing at a time and showing up for it as yourself and being willing to do it messy sometimes and imperfectly. And yeah, it's learned.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. So, what is, if someone was saying to you, what's this dot thing? Like, what it, you've got maybe a captive audience here of people who are not even familiar with polka dot. How would you best describe it in like your, like elevator pitch? I hate that one, but elevator pitch of, to sum it up quickly, what do you describe polka dot as?
Polka dot is that worldwide vision of women that are, willing to encourage you in the things that you're passionate about. I think that's really what it is. It's not it's about supporting you in your passion and what most lights you up because we're captivated by what people are passionate about. What engages us is passion in the things that they speak and show us.
Absolutely. And it was really interesting. I was at a launch, and actually in the year of COVID, it was NOCO's launch. And someone came up to me and said, "This group is so great, but I don't have a business, so I can't join." Because, like, what am I going to say when they say, "What's your business?" And so that really resonated with me. So since then, I've been telling people instead of asking people, because we have lots of members who don't have a business. That's
Yeah.
not a requirement. Instead of asking people what their business is, ask them what they're passionate about. Ask them what lights them up. If it's business, that will bubble to the top. If it's horses, if it's a goal they're pursuing, is it their family? That will always bubble to the top. So like to like make it less about what we think groups should be and more about the individual, ask them about what they're passionate about, and then watch them light up as they talk about it, and you'll know.
Yeah, and that's the best way to find connection points, right? Because it's like, ooh, I'm passionate about horses or photography or, the color purple, whatever it is. That's a connection point for people to be encouraged to say, great, meet outside of this and have a coffee, get on Zoom and connect with someone that you already have a connection point with that you can start a conversation.
Yes, I love that. Oh my gosh, good stuff. All right. Thank you for your time today. But I know that people can reach out to you through the website. You've mentioned it and I've mentioned it, but I don't think we've ever officially said that Becky is the managing director of the Wausau, Wisconsin chapter. Sorry, a little late there, but it's there. But otherwise, on social media, like how can people find you?
Yeah, my social media is Becky Plautz, my full name. And yeah, you can reach out to me on there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today, Becky. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Shannon. This has been fun.
Awesome. We will be back soon with another managing director interview. Until then, seek sisterhood and find joy. Have a good day. Bye bye.